Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. Can you believe we are already halfway through softball season? Blows my mind, but it was an exciting weekend nonetheless. We had Northwestern Wildcats started to separate themselves in a very tight race at the top of the Big Ten standings. They went and swept Michigan in their own home in Evanston for the first time in program history and now lead the way at 9-1. Although the Wolverines, they responded in a big way in yesterday's midweek game against Michigan State. Kiki Thole had 3 home runs in one game. And you know who also did that? Was Angela Zidak later on the night when they faced Illinois. So the in-state rivalries are making hitters step up in a big way. But after Northwestern at 9-1, there's currently 4 Big Ten teams who have 7 wins on the season. You have you have Penn State, who they went toe-to-toe with Nebraska last weekend, and Bridget Nemeth, who's been making a name for herself on the mound. Well, she went out and hit a home run to help her Penn State team go ahead and clinch the series. So what can she not do? And then Minnesota Gophers, they also have 7 wins. And in their game 3 against Ohio State, they were down going into the 6th, and they put up 9 runs between the bottom of the 6th and the bottom of the 7th to go ahead and sweep the series against the Buckeyes. And then you have Michigan, who has 7 wins, and Rutgers. And for Rutgers, they're really starting to step up their play in the best of ways when it matters most. They clinched the series against Wisconsin. And then they had an insane offensive performance against Maryland, where they went toe-to-toe with Courtney Weiss, winning the first game 7-6, and then the second game 9-0. And a big reason why is our special guest today, Morgan Smith, where she became the new single season RBI leader and had 10 RBIs across the 2 games. First of all, you made me look like a genius because I already had planned to have you on this podcast, and then you went out and had a ridiculous night last night.
I can sense it.
You could sense it. I love it. You were like, I'm going to put on a show so I can talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, 10 RBIs in one night, a grand slam, a 3-run homer, so much more. Talk me through what that moment was like for you yesterday.
It's so interesting when people ask me these kinds of things because I don't really have like a straightforward answer. It's more that like I'm very calm in the box. Like I feel like I don't know if you understand what I mean by this, but my hitting is really clicking for me right now. And the ball looks like a beach ball to me. and I think that because I have been really settled in my swing feels good. I've been buying into the game plan that me and my coaches have had for me specifically. And I think that because I'm trusting the process so much and I'm fully like invested in, putting my best swing on a good pitch and, having educated guesses in the box, I think that all of it is finally like falling in line together. And I think that's why I'm having such good results lately.
I mean, there's not a better feeling in the world than when the softball feels like a beach ball.
I know. And I know that everybody in the history of softball wants that moment every single day. So
how have you been able to work through those moments where maybe it didn't feel like a beach ball that have brought you to here?
I think so sometimes I can let the pressure get to me, especially as the 3-hole hitter. You're in the 3-hole, your job is to, manufacture runs. And I think that when I don't get the job done, I have to trust 4, 5, and 6 to get the job done. So if if there's anything I can do to get them to get their job done, if that's, telling them exactly what I'm seeing in the box, reading the, sometimes we try to pick changeup. If I'm seeing changeup, what can I tell the 4th-hole hitter, and it's more leaning into my teammates when I can't get the job done because it takes the pressure off myself, if that makes sense. Because there's going to be times I struggle. There's going to be times they struggle, but it's like, can we, bounce off each other to, come with a successful result? So.
And also being the 3-hitter, you're getting the pitcher's best stuff.
Yes.
And I love that you are a pitcher. Yeah. And, I was a hitting pitcher. I mean, you also do it in the field, but I think there's this advantage that nobody realized that when you are a hitting pitcher, you kind of understand what pitchers like to do to hitters. How much do you feel like having that education from being a pitcher really plays into, your knowledge when you're in the box?
I think it's kind of it's so funny you say that because me and Coach Butler, we talk about this all the time. Whenever I'm struggling with my pitching, she's like, it's just like hitting, it's just like hitting. And when I'm struggling with my hitting, it's just like pitching. It's just like pitching. And when I was in high school, we used to talk about like different counts. So the best type of hitting counts is 0-0 counts and 3-1 counts. And as a pitcher, it's the same thing. You want to start ahead in the count, 0-1, start off with a strike. 3-1, you don't want to walk them, so you're coming back with the strike. When I'm in those counts in the box, I take that into consideration. What is, the pitcher's best pitch? If her best pitch or if her go-to pitch is curve, that's what I'm looking for in those counts. I also think that when I'm in the box, where I am on the plate, I know as a pitcher, when they're towed up on the line, if you're gonna throw it inside, you got to really get it in there. And knowing that a pitcher may struggle throwing it inside, that could also be an option for me. If I'm not seeing the outside pitch very well, I know that I'm towed up on the line, she's not gonna get it inside, so I could also hit inside pitches. So it's more me having very, very much educated guesses, and even when I'm wrong, still being confident in the information that I had prior to going into the box. So it's very much being calm, very simple-minded, very straight to the point, see ball, hit ball. So
You said two things in there that I want to pick your brain on because I loved it. First of all, being aggressive as an 0-0 hitter is kind of a hot take because
it is,
yes.
it is, but when it works out,
Yeah,
it really works out. And it's kind of, swing for me. I personally don't like getting to 2 strikes. So if I can swing, I am a very aggressive hitter early in the count. I would say that my zone is a little bigger in the beginning of the beginning of the count, and it's small. It gets smaller and smaller as we go through the box. So I'm totally for swinging at the first pitch, the first strike that I see, I'm swinging. So
I love that. That is such a great mentality. Your other one, you talked about kind of moving your feet in the box, maybe to what a pitcher is throwing. That's also something I feel like you sometimes see hitters, they get very stuck in their stance and they're very repetitive. Like I stand here. And when they have to change it, it kind of messes with them. But you're able to move around in the box.
It's for me, it's I will for the most part stay. I don't know how much detail to go into, but I'll just give you one example. The second pitcher that we faced, I cannot remember her name. The second game of the Maryland game, she started the game. She was very much screw curve, and we knew going into the game that if she sticks with screw, she's going to stay on that side. If she starts with curve, she's going to stay on that side. So understanding that, okay, if I get a screw that's a little bit in, I can move off just a little bit, and if I get another one, I can move off just a little bit. Just very, very minuscule details changing in the box to not completely change your game plan or to completely get overwhelmed by the fact that you're moving so much because it's such a small minor thing. I personally think as long as you can really buy into the game plan, where you move in the box shouldn't matter. But it's when you don't really have a solid game plan, you didn't really know what the pitcher's throwing, you don't really know what location she likes to hit, then you start moving around the box, you can kind of like mess yourself up a little bit. So it's kind of like there's several variables that go into that, in my opinion.
I mean, this is why you're so good. You're softball IQ. Like I could have these conversations with you all day long.
I do my best.
When I look at your numbers last season, you had an incredible season, but this season, I mean, the growth is undeniable. You have cut your ERA down by almost 2. You're hitting exactly 100 points higher with 12 more home runs. I mean, my goodness, talk to me about what you did in the off season or what's clicking now that's making you so explosive in your senior season.
My junior year was very it was kind of a little bit tough for me last year, considering the fact that I had just came from a university where I didn't really get to play. I didn't really get to, work out kinks in my swing during the game, work on my confidence during the game, work on my intensity and my competitive mindset in the game. So last year was a lot of feeling out for me. And I will say that my mental toughness last year was not very high. There was a lot of things that I was learning. There was a lot of new things going on for me. I had never played so much in college in my life. as I did last year. So, there was a lot of things that I was trying to, overcome and learn through. But this year I told Coach Butler, I said, at the end of the day, because my goal is to be an All-American, I want to be the best of the best. But if that's not what I get, it's not going to be because I was a mental head case. It's going to be because somebody was just better than me. So I think going into this year, I was like, last year was so hard. I had so many, blah, 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 so many things wrong. This year, we're just going to play softball and we're just going to hit and we're going to be calm and we're not going to get upset about our failure. That was one of the biggest things for me this year was accepting failure. Like you're gonna you're gonna go 0 for 3 sometimes. Yesterday I gave up 4 earned runs. It's gonna happen again. And it's more, what can I do the next pitch versus so worried about last game. And I think my mental toughness has really, really been like one of the biggest main factors of why I'm doing so well now, is accepting failure, staying calm, staying very simple minded, that I wasn't able to do last year. So I would say it's not even so much physical. It's really like mentally understanding, Morgan, you are a good hitter. And no matter where they throw the ball, you can hit any pitch in the zone. So when you get it, swing hard. And that's it. So I will say my mental toughness has very much gotten me to where it is today.
That is huge. And I love that you talk about, all American goals. I mean, you're in my running list for a Big Ten player of the year. Like, I'm
I
gonna put
hear
it out
that.
there.
I hear that a lot, and I try not to get too excited about it.
No, you're gonna keep staying focused on the work, but I want to talk about your journey. As you mentioned, you played your first 2 seasons at LSU, one of the top premier programs in the country. What did you learn in those 2 years? And then why ultimately did you decide to come to Rutgers? You can be honest. This is an honest place. This is your
And
story.
I am an honest human being. I, you know, when I was at that university, it just was not working out for me. I was kind of like not failing in all areas, but kind of just a freshman. I was very new. I had all this raw talent. I didn't have like a lot of discipline in terms of like, because when you go from high school to college, like that transition is kind of big, because you're away from your parents, now you're responsible for, all of your own, things and all of those types of things. And I think that, I struggled with a lot of those. And so, I'm not gonna lie, it did really bring me down in terms of, I don't really like this sport anymore. This is too much for me. Like I didn't sign up for this. This is not what high school ball was like. I also came into college during the pandemic. So, like that was also really difficult. And so it was kind of like, and going back to the Florida League, that was my make it or break it type of thing. Like if I wanted to keep doing this, because when you fail so many times, it's like I understand that softball is a sport of failure, but when you fail so many times, it can be really hard to pull yourself up, especially if you feel like you don't have the support system that you had in high school. But it was like really learning that I can do it by myself. Like I am a good enough player to be able to work on my pitching on my own and work on my hitting on my own and work on my fielding on my own. I don't need my coach to be on me 24/7. So that sophomore year when I knew I was going to the Florida League, I said, you know what? I know that I'm leaving this university, but I'm going to use up every single resource that they have here. I'm going to use their USA men's pitchers that could spin the ball like I've never seen in my life. I'm going to work on to the point where they can't get me out. I'm going to hit every single day. And, I really like put so much time and effort into myself instead of worrying about, what team I'm on, what coach I have, what uniform I'm wearing, that it's like, okay, how can I make myself the best I can possibly be for the next university that I'm going to attend? And so it was really just pouring a lot of my attention and energy into myself and what I can do as a player versus what my coach can offer to me. And once I found Coach Butler, now we're on the same page and it's just perfect. And I was like, it was almost like it was meant to be, it was meant to happen this way.
Everything happens for a reason. And I appreciate how honest and real your answers were about your journey, because everyone sees the glory right now. They see the
Yeah.
17 home runs. They see you leading the Big Ten, leading your team. But you're talking about how only just a little over 2 years ago,
I
you
was
were
sitting the bench. Like I sat the bench for 2 years. Like I wouldn't say that my performance was so much different. I mean, I had a lot of problems when I was at my other university, and there was a lot of, real issues that were going on for me. But, at the end of the day, I sat for 2 years. So it was very, very difficult to get to where I am today. And it's honestly like very heartwarming that, I was able to fight through, and I wish like more people like I don't want to say like I wish more people knew that, but it was just like, I really pulled myself up here, and I really like poured a lot of energy into myself, and now I'm learning how to pour more energy into my teammates, and into my schoolwork, and into my coaches, and into my social life, and all these things. I've really like matured, if that makes sense. Like it was almost like that journey was a way for me to mature to be how I am today.
If you could talk to the player that you were 2 years ago, for anyone listening to this who maybe feels like they're in that same position you were, about it's gonna get better, or here's how you find the love of the game again.
You have to learn how to be present, and when I say be present, that means, having those small little moments with your teammates. And you know it's so hard because when you're in those moments, it is so hard to see a positive. And it's like, I wish the conversation was more open to more athletes who were in these situations, who are really not happy at their universities, or really not happy with their sport, or really struggling to find, the light in terms of what they've been working so hard for so many years and are not seeing the results. It's really difficult to get out of that. And the best way that I feel like I've been able to do that is really making better relationships with my teammates. Because at the end of the day, they're running the fitness test with you. They're failing. They're missing study hall hours with you. They're, running late to classes with you. They're, getting back in the morning at 3 a.m. with you and having 8 a.m. classes in the morning with you. So it's like finding a common ground with you and your teammates, not just as a player, but as a person. You are able to kind of like, we say take the strain on the team. Like we take the strain. So you can find somebody on your team to help take the strain from you. Like, okay, I'm missing this homework assignment or this homework assignment. Can you help me? Feeling that support, because a lot of times that's really what athletes are missing, is feeling the support that I'm in a sport that's failure. Like I'm failing constantly, and I need to know that it's okay to fail, because sometimes that's where we can get caught up, and really pouring into the people around you who are also failing, just like you. Understanding that you guys are the same is extremely important to me. And I feel like that's what I'm going to miss the most. Like when softball is over, is really being in a team environment where you can look to the person next to you, or to the right or left of you, and they're doing the exact same thing you're doing.
It's
So
being with each other through that failure, what you talked about,
yeah.
and then being able to celebrate with one another.
Yes.
I saw that on display with your team yesterday. I mean, you had probably 8 gloves
Yeah.
on your head.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these women besides you wanted to celebrate you. What
But
is that?
they know what I've gone through, and we know what each other is dealing with when the cameras aren't rolling. And like we know what each other is dealing with once this game is over, or what happened this morning. Like we know those little things about each other. So it's when we have great moments, it's great for everybody. And when we have bad moments, we're there to pick each other up. And I think that that was something that I was really missing too at my last university, was just feeling like accepted, supported, you know, feeling like somebody had my back, and that's what I really truly feel at this university, at Rutgers, and with my teammates and with my coaches, every single one of them, every staff member, everybody has each other's back at all times. There's no reason to believe that they don't have that. And so, so yeah, I completely agree. When the great moments are great, it's great for everybody.
Why does it feel even more special now after going through seeing the other side? Like, how much do you value this day in, day out?
I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And I wanted to every day. Like I'm not a crier. I would cry all the time. I was really like, my freshman year is really what's tanking my overall GPA right now. But I didn't quit, and like I didn't have my mom or dad, I didn't have my brother, I didn't have the support, but I did it, and I as a senior now, like it would have been great. Obviously, it would have been great to have all 4 years, to have done great all 4 years. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's my senior year. It's my last chance, and I've given it everything I had. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't have this if I would have quit. So, I think truly like knowing that, Morgan, like you are way stronger and more mentally tough than you think you are, you know? So it's like really like no, like really trusting myself at the end of the day, and like really believing in myself is where I think I am now at my senior year. It's like, Morgan, you have been through it and you made it and you're better for it, So that's truly like, it really does mean a lot that I am doing so well, because it's like 2 years ago, I would have never thought I'd even be here. So
I mean, I speak for the half of the entire softball world that we are so glad you didn't quit.
thank you.
Because I look what you're putting on display now. You talk about how you're at this place now where you're so happy to be on the other side. Looking ahead at these next few weeks, I mean, it's a tight Big Ten race, but
It
what
is.
are you trying to pour into your team, into yourself? What's the story that you want to tell in the back half of this Big Ten season, postseason?
I mean, really what I'd want people to like, if anybody, like any of my teammates, I always tell them, it's like, and I don't like to compare people's experience to say, oh, I went through it, you can do it too. Or if I did it, you should be able to do it. It's more that like, when you truly, like truly, truly, truly pour all of your energy into what it is that you're doing and your successes, and like really learning about like, okay, how, like what kind of person am I? Am I a visual learner? Do I need to write things down? Like really like learning things about how you react and how you behave and what you need in order to be able to succeed. Learning those things about yourself is probably the best thing you can get out of this. Yeah, the awards are great, the Big Tens and the regionals and all of those things are great. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, once softball's over, it's over. But the things that I've learned about myself going through this process will stick with me, when I'm 25, 30, 40, 45, 50, and so it's like really understanding that it's like, no matter how hard things get, when you can truly, at the end of the day, count on yourself to show up for yourself, that is the most important message to me at the end of the day, and taking care of yourself and what it is that you need.
And that message is going to take you
Yeah.
far in
Yeah.
life beyond this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what's clicking so well for your team right now. You guys took the series against Wisconsin and then two big wins against Maryland yesterday.
I think we really are trusting each other. I'm kind of going through a little bit of a pitching slump right now. But at the end of the day, Maddie Boyd is dealing. So it's like, I trust that even when I'm not on the mound, Maddie's going to handle it. So it's like, I don't have to feel like the whole world is falling apart on me, because you know what? At the end of the day, I trust Maddie to get it done. Oh, you know what? Kylie in LA got on base, but I struck out. Well, you got to pitch to Peyton and Katie, and it's like 1 through 9, I feel like we all understand what our jobs are, and we trust each other to do those jobs. For a little bit, our defense was a little shaky, but now, after seeing how hard the infield has been working and truly like pouring as much energy as they can into fielding ground balls and making good throws, I trust them in the game to when I release the ball and they hit the ball on the ground and it goes to, it's an out, and it's like truly like knowing that your teammates are there for you at the end of the day. That's where we're at. I mean, I've never been on a team where we've been on this as same of a page as this before. Same book, same chapter, same line. Like,
That's amazing. And that's so rare to find.
It is. And I think we all, as for the most part, get along as people. Like we make each other laugh. We change roommates every week and we're learning different things about each other. We understand how each other operates. We understand what each other's needs in certain situations, in high stress situations, because sometimes teams, like there's a lot of tension that goes on between the girls because they don't understand how different girls react to stress and how different girls react to when things are going good. And when you can understand how people react during stress, you can kind of like accommodate or change your behavior to fit what they need in that moment. And I think that us as a team has figured that out. And it actually has been invested in figuring that out, and that being a need and a want for us to truly understand each other. And I think from the beginning in August when we started to now, all we've been doing is just a slow increase of more and more trust and support and love and care for each other. And I really think that that's one of the main things here.
One of my favorite things that you just mentioned that we also did at Northwestern was having a different roommate every weekend.
Yes.
I love that because you do
Yes.
learn so much about each other. I want to know what is maybe the best thing you've learned about one of your roommates this season being on the road?
I, we have a couple of transfers this year, and as somebody who transferred, it's very interesting to hear about other people's experiences at other schools, because again, when you learn where people have been, you understand why they are why they are who they are today. And just a quick example is a Lorelai. She transferred and had the almost identical situation that I was in when I was at LSU at her previous school. And it's like learning that about her made it easier for me to get, okay, now I know that you've been in the exact situation that I was in. Let me give you advice. Let me, help you through that. Even Galen, our catcher, she came from Notre Dame, same thing, so it's like really learning about you learn about people's families, you learn about people's siblings that you didn't even know that they had, or like, animals that they have that you didn't even know, or like, and their parents that come to the games, you meet them, and it's like they're so excited because when your parents aren't there, it's like, oh, I can go to Peyton's parents, I can see Rob and Melissa, because Rob and Melissa are here, they support me just the same, so it's like you learn a lot about each other. And I truly I agree. I like changing roommates every weekend too.
That is so special. I just love hearing about your team. When I
Mhm.
look at where you guys are going, you talk about you're playing your best softball. Well, there's not a better time. You face Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan State, and Penn State. I
Mhm.
mean, it's a gauntlet to some extent, but it's also it's an opportunity.
It is. It is.
How are you guys looking forward to those?
I know that this road ahead of us, it could be tough. It could not be tough. I mean, if we keep playing the way we've been playing, it might be easy. It might be a breeze to get through. But
And
I
then we could have you back on and talk about it.
And I think that the main thing that we must continue to do from this point forward is the way that we felt in the Maryland game. We were so prepared. Once White came on the mound, we were like, yep, that's exactly who we plan to face today. We know exactly what we're looking for. We know exactly what needs to be done here, and we're going to execute that game plan. I think that sometimes we get too caught up in, oh, this was one pitch outside of my game plan, or this pitch was here and I wanted it here, and getting down to the two specifics and getting overwhelmed with the situation. Who cares what jersey they have on? It doesn't matter if they're Northwestern, it doesn't matter if they're Penn State, it doesn't matter if they're Indiana. We watched film. What pitch are you looking for? What pitch are you looking to drive? What is the game plan that we need to execute, and let's execute it. And I think as long as we keep it simple and not get so overwhelmed by the small insignificant details that don't matter, which is very easy to do in this sport, because there's so many different variables that go on to this game. As long as we can do that and feel the same way we felt against Wisconsin and Maryland, will be fine. It's really just buying into the game plan and executing it. I say that all the time. So what are you doing to execute the game plan? And as long as we could stick with that, we will be good.
You have a really interesting experience that not many people in the Big Ten have had, coming from 2 years in the SEC
Mhm.
and now joining this conference. What have you learned about Big Ten softball? Because it's different.
It is different. Oh, you want to know the main thing? If SEC schools came to the Big Ten schools to play in this weather, they would not be able to do it. They would not
I
be
am
able to do
telling
it.
you, when this conference realignment happens, people are in for a rude awakening and nobody understands
UCLA
that.
is going to have a little bit of a hard time. There, that is the main thing. It's like, the Big Ten, no matter what you say, I understand that the SEC is great, great competitive teams. The Big Ten, though, is fighting the elements. Okay. And
Gritty softball players.
yes, yes. At the end, I mean, that's really what it is. It's like when you're able to push through 21-degree weather and there's actively snowing on the ground, and you are still able to hit, throw, and catch the ball. To me, that is insanely impressive. And that is something that I mean, I have so much respect for these girls, especially those. I mean, I saw before we played Wisconsin, I think it was the end of March, there was still snow outside.
Oh, I mean, I'm from Wisconsin, and I
Mhm.
used to always say I grew up in high school where I wear a visor,
Mhm.
not because of the sun, but to keep
The
the
snow.
snow off my face. And I was calling an ACC series this past weekend. I'm not kidding you. They canceled the games because it was too cold. I looked, it was 40 degrees. I said, I would
Yeah.
have taken this happily in the Big Ten.
Yes. And it's funny because when I first got here, I had a teammate, Lily, she transferred last year. She told me, because she's from California, just like me. And she said, it gets so cold here that when it starts getting in the 50s, we get excited to wear shorts. And I said, that's not going to happen. That's not real. That's not going to happen. And she was absolutely right. 50 degrees to me is, I'm happy and I'm jumping up and down because but just the grittiness of the Big Ten and doing whatever it takes to win. The hitters in the Big Ten, are very competitive, and like I said, the weather is a huge factor, and I know that that's not like the most shiny answer, but it's true. It truly, to me, it really is true. It's being able to fight through the elements and doing what needs to be done and still win a ball game.
There are 4 teams right now in the Big Ten, including your program, who have 7 wins. I mean, the race is close. The parity is at an all-time high.
It's kind of I mean, like Coach Butler says, she's like, at the end of the day, whoever plays the best softball is going to win the game. Whoever plays the best defense, whoever makes the least amount of errors and gets 21 outs first is going to win the game. And like I said before, whether it's Indiana, Northwestern, Nebraska, that still stays the same. We are a good hitting team as long as we can remember that and stick to the game plan. 7 wins, tied for 7 wins, it doesn't matter. And I think the more we get caught into that is when we start to struggle, is when we start to think, oh, Northwestern, they have this many. Oh, they have this pitchers do that. What are we doing?
Exactly.
What are we doing today? What are you doing your first, second, third at bat? And if you didn't succeed the first at bat, what are you doing your second at bat? So I think just having that mindset of being very simple-minded, we're here to play softball, we're here to hit the ball. That's it.
The more you worry about where the other teams are in the standings, that's when your game goes down.
Absolutely. Because then you start to worry about the wrong things. It's like, well, who cares what they're ranked? That pitcher is throwing screw, curve, and rise. Which pitch are you hitting? So it's like, again, like just being simple-minded. I try my best to keep my team on one, we're here to win a ball game, doesn't matter who we're playing. Once we get outside of that, things can, get a little harder to control.
What should people know about Rutgers softball?
I think that we're very, very much the underdogs. I think that we had some games in the beginning of the season that, we shouldn't have lost to, but it happens. And I think that, I mean, we're hitting the ball. Our batting average is high. Our defense is getting a lot better. Maddie is doing a great job in the circle. And I think that, you shouldn't count us out just because, maybe I know that Rutgers hasn't been to been to regionals or anything like that, but that doesn't mean that won't happen this year, So I think that all of the years prior, we are a completely different team. And it's almost a good thing that people don't know that, because when we play them, they can be more shocked and surprised, and less prepared.
Exactly.
But yeah, don't count us out yet. We've won a few games in the bottom of the 7th, down by 5, 2 outs before. As a matter of fact, last year, Maryland, the first game that we won against Rice was exactly that. There was a no-hitter until the 7th inning with 1 out. And we were down by 4 or 3. And we won. So the game is not over until it's over. The season is not over for us until it is over. So I think that's, yeah, I feel good about that.
And the thing about a team is you only need to do it once to have that late 7th inning comeback, to then every single time you're in that situation, it could be 4 months down the road. Yep. You still have that belief because you've done it before.
Absolutely. And we truly believe it now. It's easier said than done, but when you've done it and you've seen it work, it's easier to believe in that process and not to get to, we're always fighting back. You're down, who cares? We're fighting back. We're still putting runners on base. We're still hitting the ball hard. We're still trying to execute the game plan, So we are very a smart team, a very talented team, very highly skilled team. and it's just like I think all of the pieces are falling together. So I think we could really do some damage very soon.
Lastly, you mentioned kind of earlier on in our conversation that there's so many lessons within the game that you've learned and you're going to take in with you in life. What would you say the biggest lesson is that you're going to carry with you?
It's okay to fail. It is very much okay to fail because not only you're going to get another opportunity, everybody around you is failing too. It's easy to look at your own life and like maybe, see all these other people put together. You have no idea what happens when they go home or when they're not in front of the camera, or, maybe this person that you say, oh, has such good grades and, they always look so well put together. Their house is a disaster. They have not put oil in their car in weeks. They haven't been grocery shopping in weeks, and it's like, I kind of have learned that about myself too. It's like, sometimes, I was just telling them my room currently is a disaster, but I've learned so many of my other teammates, their room is also a disaster and they're doing okay. They're not fit. Like the world is not ending, So it's like being okay with the fact that you are not perfect, but also learning from when you fail. Because it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to continue to fail the same way, if that makes sense. So learning from your failure and accepting it for what it is, accepting, reflecting, and doing it better the next time.
I think that's so important, especially in this day and age. Being a collegiate athlete, so much is glorified in the social media days, and everything's a highlight reel.
Yes.
You go on your page, you're going to see your reel from hitting a grand slam. You're going to see XYZ, but you don't see the day-to-day grind that you might be facing, these battles that nobody knows about.
Because and I'll give you another example. Maddie pitched extremely well against Wisconsin. You would have no idea that the weekend prior, she twisted her ankle for the second time, and the entire ankle was black and blue and swollen. I've never seen something like that in my life. And the entire week, she was in a boot and wasn't even walking on it properly. And you would have no idea, because the cameras didn't show that. And the hard work that she put in and grinded all week to make sure she was with Zach in the training room every single day. I'm sure she was sick of them. I'm sure she's tired of seeing the training room. But it's things like that where it's like, you never know what people are going through when they're not being recorded or when they're not playing a softball game. And it is okay to not be on top of everything all the time. It's gonna happen. You're gonna fall behind. It's like, what are you doing to get back on track is what's more important.
Well, Morgan, I can't thank you enough because everyone has seen your success, but nobody really knows the story. And I appreciate your openness and just your heart and being able to share those moments, because you're a perfect example of it's okay to fail, because look at how bright you're shining now.
Absolutely.
Well, best of luck in these next few weekends. I'm excited to keep watching you killing it. I know
I'm
everybody
excited to
else
keep playing.
And we will hopefully have you back on to be able to recap what a great few weekends it was. But best of luck. And thank you all for tuning in for this week's episode of Sydney Spin Big Ten Edition.